So in this video, I'm going to go over the practice final for the spring. I have it printed out, and you can ask me for a copy if you would like it printed out as well. So this first question wants me to evaluate the expression using a calculator and to round my answer to 2 decimal places when appropriate. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go straight to Desmos, and I'm going to type this in. There is this keyboard at the bottom. I can press that. I can press functions. If I go to miscellaneous and then this nth root button, I could type the 4 up top so I can have the 4th root. Then I'm going to type the 28,561, which just gets me 13. Question 2 wants me to simplify the following radical expression. What I want to do is I want to first see if this 4 will divide out. So I'm going to rewrite it as one big fraction. I'm going to have 108 divided by 4. Then I'm going to go back to Desmos and see if 108 is nicely divided by 4, which it gives me 27. So I'm going to go back to my paper. I have the cube root of 27. I'm going to type this in the Desmos to see if it works. I can type in the cube root the same way I did last time, or I can type the letter C, B, R, and then T is going to make it turn into the cube root. 27 gives me 3. This one wants me to find the real solution. So what I want to do is I want to start by getting rid of this cube root. I am going to cube both sides. That's going to get me x plus 2. 3 cubed is 27. Then I want to subtract 2 on both sides. I get x equals 25. Okay, this next question wants me to find the real solutions of the equation. I am going to find the 4th root of both sides. So I'm going to raise both sides to the 1/4 power. This is going to leave me with x minus 3. And when I get my answer, I'm going to get 2 answers. I'm going to get a positive answer, and I'm going to get a negative answer. So I want to have 2 equations to solve. I'm going to go back to Desmos. And then I want to type in 81 to the 1/4 power, which gets me 3. So I'm going to have a positive 3 and a negative 3 that these 2 equations equal. Then I want to go ahead and solve each equation. The first one I will add 3 to both sides. I get x equals 6. The second one I add 3 to both sides. I get x equals 0. So I have 2 answers on this one, 6 and 0. And those should be square boxes on the test, because you can pick 2 answers. Okay. This next one wants me to solve for x, so what I need to do is I want to get each radical on its own side of the equation. So I'm going to add the cube root of 8x plus 1 to both sides, which is going to give me the cube root of 2x minus 5 equals the cube root of 8x plus 1. Then I want to go ahead and cube both sides so I can get rid of those radicals. So it just leaves me with the stuff inside. I'm going to have 2x minus 5 equals 8x plus 1. I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. I get negative 5 equals 6x plus 1. I can subtract 1 on both sides. This gets me negative 6 equals 6x. Then I can go ahead and divide both sides by 6, which gets me x equals negative 1. Okay, this next one wants me to find the function operations and then to evaluate. So the first one is just adding the 2 functions together. So I have 2x to the 2/3 plus negative 4x to the 2/3. I just add the numbers out front when I'm adding the 2 functions. It's going to give me negative 2x to the 2/3. And again, I know I'm adding because of this plus sign down here. The second one is subtracting. So I have 2x to the 2/3 minus negative 4x to the 2/3. So that's the same thing as adding when I have a double negative. So really I have 6x to the 2/3. This one is plugging in 8 for the top equation. So I'm going to have negative 2 times 8 to the 2/3. So I can go ahead and type that into Desmos. Which gets me negative 8. next one is plugging in 27 into the negative 1. That's negative 27. So I'm going to plug that in. That is 6 times negative 27 to the 2/3. So I can go back to Desmos and type that in. Which gets us 54. This next one wants me to find the domain, all of the excluded values, select all that apply. So on this one, I want to set all the denominators not equal to 0. So I'm going to take x minus 3 doesn't equal 0, x squared minus 4 doesn't equal 0. I want to start off by adding 3 to both sides. X doesn't equal 3, so that's one of my answer choices here. The next one, I want to add 4 to both sides. I get x squared equals 4, square root both sides. Because I'm drawing the square root symbol, I'm going to have a plus and minus, so 2 answers, and then the square root of 4 is 2. So also positive 2 and negative 2. This next one gives me this graph. It wants me to find the domain, vertical asymptote, range, and horizontal asymptote. So I can start off by graphing this. Let me close out of this keyboard. So I have y equals 3 divided by x minus 4 minus 1. So my domain is everything except the vertical line it's avoiding, which is x equals 4. And my range is everything except the horizontal line it's avoiding, which is negative 1. Notice these match up to parts of the equation. So the domain is all real numbers except for 4. And this is the opposite of the bottom number sign. Then my range is all real numbers except for this number, which is the same as the sign. So negative 1 and negative 1. Okay, the next one wants me to simplify. I want to multiply straight across. So I'm going to have 4x. This y has a secret exponent of 1, so I add my exponents. That's going to be y to the 4th. Then on the bottom, I have 8. This x has a secret exponent of 1. I'm going to add my exponents when I multiply, so that gives me x cubed y. Then I can simplify. 4 divided by, or I'm going to break this up into different fractions. So I have 4 divided by 8, x over x cubed, and y to the y fourth over y. So I can simplify each of my fractions. The first one's going to give me 1/2. The second one, I subtract my exponents, which gets me negative 2. On the y's, I subtract my exponents, which gets me 3. Remember, when I have a negative exponent, only that piece moves to the bottom of a fraction. So it's going to move to the bottom and change the sign. And then my top is y cubed. So the 1 can go away, and then I just have y cubed over 2x squared. Okay, this one tells me my friend is depositing $9,500 into an investment account that earns 2.1% annual interest. Find the balance after 11 years when it's compounded semi-annually. So this formula is A equals P, parentheses 1 plus R over N to the NT. P is how much I start off with. R is my interest rate as a decimal. So I take that number and divide by 100 to get 0.021. T is time. N is number of times compounded. So this one tells me semi-annually. If you think of the sales that the stores typically have, N is 2. So then I just need to plug into my formula. I have A equals 9,500, parentheses 1 plus 0.021 over 2 raised to the 2 times 11. So then I want to go ahead and type that into Desmos. Which gets me 11,954 point, this one's going to round up 26 cents. So you only type the number into Canvas. Okay, the next one wants me to simplify this. I could type this into Desmos and get my answer. So if I do this, I have 10 to the log 9. 10 and a log cancel out, which just give me 9. Number 12 wants me to condense the expression. I first want to take any numbers out front and make those exponents. So I'm going to have log base 7 of 8 plus log base 7 of 3 cubed minus log base 7 of 4. Then I want to simplify 3 cubed, which is 27. Numbers on the top get multiplied, or numbers with plus in between get multiplied, numbers with minus get subtracted. So I have log base 7, 8 times 27, divided by 4. And then I just need to simplify the stuff inside because all of my answers still have log base 7 on the outside. So I am going to type the inside part into Desmos. I have 8 times 27, divided by 4, which gets me 54. Okay. This one wants me to solve the equation. I have a log on one side and a number on the other. So it's going to become 4 to the 5th because these two are going to switch places and I get rid of the word log. Equals negative x plus 7. I don't know 4 to the 5th, so I'm going to type that into Desmos, which gets me 1024. Then I want to go ahead and subtract 7 on both sides. This gets me 1017 equals negative x. I divide both sides by negative 1. I get x equals negative 1017. So my answer is negative 1017. Number 14 wants me to solve. It gives me a fraction. What I want to do is I want to multiply by everything on my denominators. So I have a 6. 6 can be divided by 3. And then I also have an x. So I'm going to multiply everything by 6x. And I have 6x times 2 over 3x. 6x times 1 over 6, and then 6x times 4 over 3x. So over here the x's cancel out. I'm going to be left with 12 divided by 3. Over here the 6's cancel out, so I have an x. Over here the x's cancel out. I have 24 divided by 3. I can divide both those numbers by 3. I have 4 plus x equals 8. I can subtract 4 on both sides. I got x equals 4. Okay. Number 15 gives me a right triangle and it wants me to find the 6 trig functions of theta. If my theta is up here, this is my opposite, this is my adjacent, and this is my hypotenuse. Remember we have SOHCAHTOA to help us remember the trig functions. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so 12 over 15. But I want to simplify that if I can, because it says simplest form. I can type this into Desmos. I'm just going to do it for sine, but I can do this for all of them. I'm going to do 12 divided by 15. If I press this square over square, it turns it back into a fraction, which gets me 4 over 5. Okay, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 9 over 15, which when I type in the Desmos will give me 3 over 5. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so 12 over 9, which simplifies to 4/3. Over here on the second column, these are opposite fractions of the numbers on the left. So what that means is I'm going to take the fraction and flip it. Sine is the opposite fraction of cosecant, so this is 5/4. Secant is the opposite of cosine, so that's 5/3. Cotangent is the opposite of tangent, which gets me 3/4. This one wants me to find the value of x for this right triangle, round my answer to the nearest hundredth. So I have my opposite side and my hypotenuse. This, if I remember SOHCAHTOA, is sine. So I would do sine 53 equals x over 15. I want to get x all alone, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 15. That cancels out on the right, and I have 15 sine 53. I want to make sure I'm typing this into Desmos Scientific, otherwise I'm going to get the wrong answer. So I go look back. Desmos Scientific looks like this one. I would type in 15 sine 53, which gets me 11.98. Number 17, I'm converting to degrees, so I want to multiply by 180 over pi. This will cancel that out, the pi's, so I have 5, 6, 180. I can go type that into Desmos. Which gets me 150. So that's my first answer. The second one wants to figure out what quadrant it's going to be in. I have 0, 90, 180, 270, and this one is also 360. So if I'm between 0 and 90, I'm in quadrant 1. If I'm between 90 and 180, I'm in quadrant 2. If I'm between 180 and 270, I'm in quadrant 3. If I'm between 270 and 360, I'm in quadrant 4. So 150 is between 90 and 180, so that is quadrant 2. Number 18 is similar. I'm converting to radians, so I want to multiply by pi over 180. So I can rewrite this as 108 over 180 pi, which I can take just a fraction and type into Desmos to simplify. So I have 108 divided by 180. If I turn it back into a fraction, gives me 3/5. So my answer here is 3 pi fifths. It writes the pi before the number, or before the denominator, because it puts it on the top of the fraction. This one, I'm looking at 108 degrees, which is between 90 and 180. So this is again quadrant 2. Okay. This one wants me to use the values shown in the first quadrant to find the sine and cosine value of 180. Sine is going to be, cosine is x, sine is y, and then 180 is this point right here. I recommend using the 9.1 or 9.3 notes because I give you the circle completely filled out. So at 180, my point is -1, 0. So my cosine is going to be -1. Oops, I didn't mean to move that off. and my sign is 0. So that is the first answer right there. Literally just putting them with the x and y. My last problem is a word problem. It tells me the angle of elevation from a point A on the ground to the base of a flagpole is 52 degrees. The distance between point A and the flagpole is 55. What is the height? So if I look at this is my adjacent, this is my opposite. That means I am going to use tangent on this problem. I have tangent of 52 equals x over 55. I want to multiply both sides by 55, which cancels out on my denominator. And then this again, I'm going to type into Desmos Scientific. Which gives me 70.3. It wants me to round to the nearest whole number, so my answer here is just 70.